All right, welcome into Starting Nine here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can find me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at Five Reasons Sports. Our producer today is Manny Chang. We're going to get you ready for Heat Hawks, the play-in game tonight at 7:30. We'll have plenty of coverage here on the channel. Make sure you check out the Before Floor preview that has already posted. We've already got videos up there from yesterday's practice that I took of Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love. We'll be putting up more as the day goes on. Also, of course, after the game, we will have coverage. This time we're going to have Hangover Time. That's the crew from Miami Heat Beat. They'll be joined by our Alex Toledo, who's going to be with me and Brady Hawk at the arena. And Greg Sylvander is going to be doing a podcast as well after the game that will also post. And you can also catch us during the game on playback. So come hang out with us on playback. I'll post that on the Five Reasons Sports Twitter feed. We're sponsored here today. We've got two sponsors. One is PrizePicks. Use code 5, FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. Again, this is free, okay? This is not like rollovers. You got to do it 12 times. No, they're literally giving you money. So go to prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. You can play the NBA with other sports as well. Also, we did our first NBA Central PrizePicks show. We're now partnered with NBA Central on PrizePicks and Better Edge stuff related to the NBA. You can catch that on the channel. David Eversole and I went through the picks. I kind of like the Gabe Vincent prop, so check that one out. I'm not real comfortable with the Jimmy Butler points prop, which is a 27.5, which is high. And obviously they're expecting playoff Jimmy. Fans are expecting playoff Jimmy, but usually that prop is about 21.5, 22.5. They pumped it all the way up to 27.5. That's what they think of him. Also, check out our other sponsor, All Pro Construction Builders. Go to allproconstructionbuilders.com. or All Pro Construction Builders on Instagram. There's the brand new website. This is a family business, and you need this, okay? Seriously, if you own a home, you have to have storm windows. Like down here in South Florida, you know what this is going to get like. We start getting the named storms sometime in August, usually, and then everybody starts freaking out. Do you have shutters? Well, they can get you the shutters also, but they can get your home custom fit, basically, to prepare you for storms and other things of that nature. So don't be sorry. Don't take care of it afterwards. Take care of it before. Reach out to our friends over Danny and the team over there over at All Pro Construction Builders. And again, you can find it at allproconstructionbuilders.com. If you mention Five Reasons, you get 10% off your entire order there. And it's 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. All right, we're just going to talk about the play-in here. And again, I was at practice yesterday, and this is what struck me. Well, a couple things, okay? First thing, the Heat don't practice very much at home anymore. So that is the best opportunity to actually talk to players because the players don't really go in the locker room much. It's very different than pre-COVID in terms of game day. So we're at practice yesterday, and they did make some players available to everybody upon request. Jimmy Butler, Kevin Love, and Kyle Lowry were the three primaries who spoke. Some other players spoke to people around the side, and, of course, Eric Spoelstra spoke as well. And I think what has to be taken out of this, well, a couple things. First thing, we're going to see a very similar lineup and rotation to what we saw late in the season. And I've been saying that on Five on the Floor and another programming here. Eric Spoelstra doesn't make that kind of change, putting Max Strus in the starting lineup and then going to the bench of Love, Martin, and Lowry, which, by the way, is like a plus 35 or something like that in 60 minutes together this season. He doesn't make that kind of move unless he's planning on taking it into the postseason. So I did ask Spoelstra yesterday about what he thinks of that three-man bench, and he glowed about it, which, okay, I kind of trapped him into revealing that is what they're going to be doing. So I would expect same starting lineup, Jimmy Butler at the 4, Max Strus in the starting lineup with Hero, with Vincent, and with Bam, Lowry, Love, Martin off the bench, and then possibly one more. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be Duncan Robinson in this matchup. It could be Haywood Highsmith as an extra defender against Trae Young, who has shot only 32% in his last 9 games against the Heat, 18% from 3. But Miami will try some different things to get him even more off his game while also trying to account for DeJounte Murray, who they did not have to deal with in the playoffs last year and who had a big game against Miami earlier this season. Also, they're facing a new offensive system that they're very familiar with because it's Quinn Snyder's system that he brought from Utah. It's not fully implemented, but even so, over the last month, Atlanta was first in the league in offense, and the Heat players kept saying that yesterday. And when Heat players keep saying something, it's because Eric Spoelstra and the coaching staff has drilled that into them. So they are aware, and they have played the Hawks with Quinn Snyder twice already, but they are aware that this is a different team than the Nate McMillan Hawks, that this team is going to try to play a little faster. They're going to play more in the mid-range. There's not as many threes, but they've been very, very good offensively since the coaching change, particularly over the last month. They also know, however, that the Hawks are not a very good defensive team. And that is the reason that the Hawks are maybe the most mediocre team in NBA history. They are 41-41. They hugged the 500 line for basically the entire season, and especially the last 2 months, where they basically went win-loss, 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 win-loss. They are down the middle in terms of net rating in the league, a little bit higher than the Heat's actually. But they are a mediocre team because their defense is not very good. And there are things that the Heat can exploit in terms of their defense. The first thing, obviously, is going to be Jimmy hunting mismatches. But I think you'll see a lot of Hero Bam pick and roll. You may not see as much Jimmy Bam pick and roll as you've seen recently, because of the way that they play the pick and roll. The way that the Hawks play the pick and roll is they stay with Bam on the roll, make it very difficult for him to operate. So you're going to have to see some additional actions and counters like we saw in the last couple games of the season, with Hero getting involved in the three-man game, which is something that our Brady Hawk has detailed here on the channel. So offensively, Tyler is going to be a big factor here. We've got an episode that's going up I did with Norris Cole. It's up here on the channel. And he talked about the importance of Tyler establishing himself as a postseason player. And we look back at the bubble, but since the bubble, he's been very up and down in the postseason. He's been better in the regular season than he was in the bubble regular season, which, of course, was Tyler's rookie season, because he's grown as a player in numerous ways. But the playoffs last year were bad, and they were bad even before he had the hip injury that kept him out and bothered him later in the postseason. So they need to get better play from Tyler than they've gotten. Defensively, they need to account for somebody other than Trey, who is going to potentially hurt them because of all the focus on Trey. DeAndre Hunter, who I went over with on PrizePicks, because he tends to be the guy that the Heat kind of let operate. They don't seem too concerned about him in terms of putting up the kind of game that's going to kill them, but he's been very effective against them. The other guy who's been effective against Miami traditionally, and they didn't have to deal with him for most of the playoff series last year, and when they did, he was hurt, is Clint Capella. And Capella makes a difference because Capella on the roll with Trey can be very good. And for all of Trey's shortcomings, and he has a bunch of them, and I don't mean that as a pun, the biggest shortcoming that he does not have is his assist total. He has been way up in assists recently. In fact, PrizePicks has him at 9 assists. He's been way over that recently. The ball's going to be in his hands a lot. It's not always to shoot. A lot of times it's making plays for others and in the pick and roll. X factor for Atlanta, John Collins. His numbers have declined over the past 4 years. He's fallen out of favor there, but he is still capable of a big game. He's a very offensively fluid player. He just seems out of sorts lately, and he's not very good defensively, and so sometimes Quinn Snyder has not been giving him the usual minutes. And, of course, the other guy that we mentioned with Atlanta, because we have to, is Bogdanovich. This is not the Bogdanovich in Detroit who tortured Miami in that one game. He's not as good as him, but he's pretty damn good, and he's had some games against Miami over the past 3 years, which register him as a concern. Miami, we know the way that they defend, that sometimes they're going to give up some threes. They cannot give up a ton of open threes to him, particularly on the wings where he can be very effective. So defensively, the idea, again, make it difficult on Trey. Ball's going to be in his hands. Try to make him as inefficient as possible. Don't let Murray get off. Hunter, they're going to give certain things to, okay, and hope that that's not the thing that kills them, and hope you don't have an X-factor game from Collins or particularly Capella. Offensively, I mentioned what Hero has to do, but also a lot of this is about shooting. Miami's shooting has come up over the last month. It's not where it was last season, but it's much better than it was the first 3 or 4 months of this season. A lot of that, Max Strus shooting 41% from 3 over the past 6 weeks. Kyle Lowry shooting 41% from 3 since his return. Yesterday, I asked him about it, why he's been better since he came back. He looked me in the eye and he says, I was playing hurt. I was playing on one leg. That's the clearest that he has said what he was going through at that time. Now, a lot of Heat fans reacted to that like, okay, show me. There's a lot of frustration with Kyle, not a lot of trust in Kyle. But he's been very good, actually, over the past 4 or 5 weeks. Is he ever going to live up to that contract? No. But you're not looking for guys to live up to contracts now. I know a lot of focus goes on contracts in the postseason. What you're doing is looking for guys who are going to contribute meaningful minutes so that you can win critical games. And this is one of them. If they get 26 good minutes out of Kyle Lowry, and he's a significant plus as he was in the last game that he played, not the Udonis game, but the last game that had meaning. And again, he makes, let's say he has 9 points and 5 assists, but he's getting the offense organized. He's giving relief when sometimes Gabe struggles a little bit, and he's at least competing defensively, which he's done lately. Even if he can't stay with the quicker guards, you'll take it. Just like you'll take, a 3 of 7 3 game from Strus, just like you'll take from Gabe Vincent, getting in Trey's face, making things difficult on him and hitting a couple of threes. You just take what you can get from a variety of guys, knowing what you're going to get from Jimmy Butler, who can absolutely mismatch Hunt on this team. He can get everything he wants against Atlanta, trying to get more out of Bam than you've gotten traditionally in the postseason. But this is a team that he can eat against. They're going to basically, again, they're going to attack him on the roll. He's going to have to short roll, but they will give him that mid-range jumper where he's been so effective. So he should have a pretty decent game here. And I mentioned Tyler Hero being an X factor, especially coming off of last playoffs. I think Miami wins this game. My concern was, I guess, peaked a little bit yesterday when a couple of the players were talking about the idea that it was not a win-or-go-home situation. They can't look at it that way, okay? And maybe it just slipped out. And I think it was actually Love who said it. And he was saying it in the context of last year when he was with Cleveland. They lost to Atlanta, but they were the 8. And so when they lost to Atlanta, then that ended up damaging them in a way that this would not damage the Heat because they are the home team as the 7. But the Heat can't look at this like they got 2 bites at the apple here. Like if they lose to Atlanta, okay, we'll get the winner of Toronto, Chicago. We'll beat them, and then wait, we got to play Milwaukee in the first round. First thing, you don't want to play Milwaukee in the first round. As good as Boston is, they're not the Bucks. The Heat have matchup advantages against Boston. They have some confidence against Boston. They do not have a ton of confidence against Milwaukee. This is not the same Heat team that bottled up Milwaukee 3 years ago and got to the finals. They don't have a Jay Crowder type player. They're not as deep with guys who can guard Giannis. Giannis has gotten better. The supporting cast around Giannis, Drew's in my view, just had his best season, Drew Holiday, but also a lot of the vets that they've added, some of whom the Heat are familiar with, whether it's Dragic or Crowder, but also adding Joe Ingles in the offseason. That team is better than the Bucks team from 3 years ago. To me, that team is the favorite to win the championship. You do not want to see Giannis coming right out of this play-in game. So to me, you can't put yourself in a situation where you may be the 8 seed. But beyond that, there's no guarantee you're going to beat Toronto or Chicago. Chicago has been one of the best teams in the league, actually, by net rating. They're 4th in the league in net rating since the All-Star break. They're actually playing pretty well now. And also, they've beaten the Heat all 3 times. Toronto has beaten the Heat 3 out of 4 times. So you've lost 6 out of 7 games against the teams that are in the 9-10 play-in. Now, everybody's like special circumstances. Jimmy didn't play some of those games. Bam didn't play some of those games. I don't care. The fact is, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you could lose one game to one of those teams and you're out. And if you do beat them, your reward is getting the Milwaukee Bucks, okay? No. Get this thing done tonight. Bottle up Trey as best you can. Keep him inefficient. Not going to shoot 18% from 3 probably, but don't let him shoot better than 30% from 3. Don't let Hunter kill you, even if you're giving him some opportunities. Don't allow Bogdanovich to get off. Limit Collins. Make Collins kind of a non-factor. Hero does his thing offensively, okay, to support Jimmy and Bam. They should win this game. They really should win this game. And by winning this game, then you get to Boston. You got 3 days to prepare for Boston. They know what Boston is and what they would be dealing with. Saw a couple comments come up. I apologize if I didn't get to them right away. Manny, throw a couple up and then we'll close here. Unfortunately, lost my glasses, so I'm using readers now. Do you think Spo will play Vic for the game, Ethan? It's going to roll out if he's playing fully the defense, but when he takes crazy shots, he cancel out his contribution. I think that Victor Oladipo is a break glass in case of emergency situation here in the playoffs. The fact that he got some rhythm in the last 2 games of the year is good, but I don't think they're counting on him in the postseason like they did last year. I don't see him as a regular member of the rotation. I would expect them to play Highsmith ahead of him when they need a defender, simply because with Highsmith, he knows his role. He's not going to get out of his role. Vic, when he came back this latest time from the latest setback later in the year, for some reason started to hijack the offense a lot more than he did previously. It's almost like he didn't trust his body to do some other things. He started pounding the ball a lot. He did find some rhythm in the last couple games of the year, but the problem with Vic is who he plays with and whether he subtracts offensively from the others he plays with. We know what he can do defensively. He's obviously a very good defender, but I think it's more likely that Highsmith will get those minutes. If you were to say Highsmith, Robinson, Yurt, Zeller, Oladipo, who's the ninth guy beyond the eight that I've discussed? I would say it's Highsmith and then Zeller. I think those are the two most likely to get minutes. Duncan Robinson and Victor Oladipo will be situational players as we go forward. All right, this is just a primer. We got plenty of other content coming up on the show. I'm sure I missed some stuff. I do like the Heat tonight. I'm going to say the Heat by 7 tonight at home. You can play that, of course, on Better Edge. Use the code 5RSN. If you want to play that there, check out all of our other content. I mentioned use the code 5 at PrizePicks, FIVE. And then also All Pro Construction Builders. Go to allproconstructionbuilders.com. Reach out to Danny and the crew. It's family business. They use American products, locally made products, and they can service all of South Florida, all the way down to the Keys and all the way up through Broward County. Thanks to Manny Chang. Check out our content on the channel. Have a good day, everybody.